So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whenever you're listening to this. This is Matthew Bailey, and this is another episode of Six Reels Deep. And today, myself, Sommerleigh of Movie Junkies for Life, or Movie Junkies Continued, as the Facebook page.
Hey.
And Alicia, aka Dark Alice of Dark Alice Reviews.
Hello.
Yeah, so all three of us will be talking about Salem's Lot, the new one that just came out a few days ago, courtesy of Max, right? So I'll just do a quick preamble for it, and the reason being, just to kick things off, is that I literally watched the 1979 miniseries, if you will, well now released as a full 3-hour film a few days ago, a couple days before watching the new one. I finally watched the old one. It was just one of those shows that I never sought out, even though I heard for years about how spooky and scary it was, right? But it was just one of those shows that I never sought out, right? As not to say that I don't appreciate Stephen King film adaptations, but it's just that I don't seek out a lot of them. Like I don't know, like some of them just have to stick out to me, or I have to hear like a lot of praise about them for me to reach out to them, right? So like case in point, the It miniseries. I mean, when I was young, I mean, that was the show that got me really freaked out, right, as a kid, right? When it aired on
Most of
EPM.
us.
Yeah, and then when I watched it again, watch it years afterwards, I was like, I could see why I was scared about it, but I still like aspects about it. But I did that in preparation for the It remake, which I think came out in 2017, which I absolutely enjoyed, right?
Mhm.
And then there was It Chapter 2, which I remember seeing on my birthday, and I absolutely hated it. I thought It Chapter 2 was trash. Hated it. It was just bad. And then they had the audacity to make the thing almost 3 hours. I'm like, why is this 3 hours of this terribleness? That's what it was, right, in my opinion. So yeah, I just never bothered to seek out Salem's Lot, right? But then I heard, we're getting a remake, so I finally got the chance to check it out, right? So what I would say is that I could understand, similar to the 1990 It miniseries, I could understand why people back in 79 or in the 80s or early 90s thought it was really frightening, right? It was really interesting that it came from Toby Hooper, right, who we will talk about later on in the series, right? And the thing what I felt, right, like just personally, is that I felt like, this is the guy who gave us stuff like prior to stuff like Poltergeist and Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, right? He would give us the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which we will talk about. There's a little slight little spoiler there. And stuff like Eaten Alive now. So you're thinking, the guy, he's going to bring that sort of visceral horror style to this, right? But you're watching it, it's like, and then you find out after the fact, it's the studio, I think it was CBS, or I think it was, kind of didn't want to make it too grotesque or too graphic or whatever. So, it just kind of told the story straightforward, but it is genuinely spooky. Like, I would say 2 scenes in particular really stood out to me. The reveal of the character of Barlow, right, who you'll get into in this review here. And that one kid, I think it's Danny Glick, when you see him outside of the kid's house and by the window.
Yeah, floating by the window.
Floating.
Yeah.
That is incredibly creepy, boy. I'm like, wow, that looks...
And scratching at the window, like...
Yeah,
Yes.
What is that? Like, seriously, it's really scary. Yeah, but I just felt, and I just kind of seen this in comparison to this film here, right? It feels a little tame in terms of the scare factor of it, right? I do like how they flesh the world of Jerusalem's Lot. That's the city where the story is based, the town, sorry. But I just find like, I don't know, like there just could have been more scares. It just felt like a little tapered down, a little watered down, I guess, because we didn't want to make it too frightening, we didn't want to make it too graphic, and then they like pull it off the air, whatever it is. So it just feels like the studio kind of came in and restrict certain things now, so I'll close this. I never saw the sequel, A Return to Salem's Lot, nor do I have any intention to. I think that
You didn't miss anything.
Okay, thank you.
Was in 2004, I think it was.
Yeah,
2004 remake.
Yeah, there was a remake of it. Didn't bother because again, I don't know. It's just I just never bothered. It's just the story never roped me in. No, at least the premise of it didn't rope me in back then, right? But then when I heard about this remake now, I'm like, okay, maybe I should give this thing a look, right? But that's why I recap. That's why, sorry, not recap. That's why I watched the old film so I could understand what the story was, and just the closing of see why people found it frightening, right? And I guess back then, yeah, I understand if people found it to be scary, but today it seems very, very tame, even by Toby Hooper's standards. I'm talking about like just if I were to compare it to something like Poltergeist, I would get more scares out of Poltergeist than Salem's Lot, right? But this is not me knocking the original film. This is not me saying that the film is trash. If it's I think it works just as a solid Stephen King film adaptation, right? And lastly, I could be wrong about this, but I think this is like probably one of, if not the first Stephen King novel to be adapted to film, right? Because it's so interesting that the following year, we would get what is, in my opinion, the best horror film ever made, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, right? Yeah, which is also based off of a Stephen King novel, right? So yeah, y'all could tell me if this was the first Stephen King novel to be adapted.
Yeah, I think
or not.
so. I think you're right.
Okay, well, right. Well, look at that,
Yeah.
right? So wow, yeah, you really have to start somewhere. So yeah, Alicia, do you have any thoughts on the old film, on the 1979 film and the remakes and stuff?
Well, my first experience with it, I watched it as a child on television, and it basically scared the living daylights out of me. But I always loved vampires as a child, so that's why I was attracted to the story. And then after that, finding out that it was written by Stephen King, is actually watching that miniseries got me to fall in love with Stephen King's writing, and that's when I started collecting the novels and so on from that same miniseries. In terms of it being scary, no, because I really watched it just like yourself, and I think it holds up pretty well. Yes, it is tame by Toby Hooper's standards, but I think the big thing that it still maintains is the atmosphere. The impending sense of doom, and it's unsettling still. And I really thought that David Soul as Ben Mears was perfect. Rest in peace, because I think he died earlier this year. Was this year that David Soul died?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I think it's
Let me
this
check.
year.
I could check that.
You know, so yeah, I think in rewatching it in
Yes,
preparation
it was
for
January in January of this year.
right. So in what rewatching it, I was still very satisfied, and I think that it still holds a lot of prominence in the Stephen King film verse, because there have been other as summer there have been other film adaptations of Stephen King's books, and some of them are pretty terrible.
Right. And Summer,
Hmm.
yeah, your history with the '79 film and the remakes, if you will.
Right. Yeah, like I think I might have been a teen when I saw it, preteen at least. And I like Alicia, I love vampires. I love all the classic movie monsters. And this movie definitely, what I think I was drawn to about this film was the fact that it was in a small town. It wasn't a gothic castle or anything like that. It made vampires seem more of a threat because of the fact that here was this ancient evil entity, and it's been moved into your town, into a place you wouldn't expect to find something like that. And I think Toby Hooper, with all the restrictions that he would have been given by the studio, by the television network and so forth, I think he did a great job of bringing a lot of the essence of the novel to the screen, especially that those glowing eyes. The look of these vampires are so iconic in their own right. And something you touched on there, Matthew, that I have to agree on, it's the world building for Jerusalem's Lot. I do feel this town does feel like a place that's lived in. These people feel like real people. And I feel like one of the reasons that I found that I enjoyed it as much as I did the original, is the fact that I felt sympathy for these people. I did, this could be your
Hmm.
neighbor, your friend, especially when
Hmm.
it's children being killed as well. But It was a case of these were good people. Nobody in this town did anything. Even the little bullies or whatever, the kids. Nobody in this town did anything to deserve such a horrible fate. It made me hate Straker so much more because of that. Um, I do agree that I really enjoyed David Soul as Ben Mayers as well. I think everybody, honestly, for the most part, all of the actors, they resonate. The ones that, especially the
Mhm.
ones that have main roles like Mike and Straker, Mark, all these characters, they
Mhm.
they they play it straight for the most part. They take it
Mhm.
seriously, so you take it seriously. So there's great atmosphere, great tone. I do have
Mhm.
a fun place in my heart for the Salem slot, the 79 version, because in like Alicia, I would rewatch it as well, and I still find there is a lot of it that works. But Matt, I do also understand from the point of view of somebody seeing this now who's never seen it before, who's not being affected by nostalgia and that sort
Right.
of thing, where you would not find it to be as scary or maybe as well made or whatever as we would see it to be, because we do have that whole nostalgia thing going on there for us as well. But I mean, Marlowe, a hell of a vampire, a hell of a look.
Yeah, yeah.
Stephen King was always one of those people that thought vampires should never be pretty. You saw it in
Mhm.
his book, The Night Flyer, and the
Mm.
adaptation, right, where I call him one of the ugliest vampires of all time.
Oh
So
yeah.
I appreciate that I appreciate that he didn't want to romanticize these monsters at all.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, as you can tell, I do have a fondness for the original, and I do think it holds up for what it is. I think it holds up.
Okay, okay, okay. So as for the remake itself, right? So this is not gonna be like heavy on spoilers. Sorry, but it's just our thoughts on the film itself, right? Um, and the show itself pretty much follows how exactly the original. Sorry, how the source material follows, right? We have this author by the name of Ben Mayers who returns his childhood home of Jerusalem's Lot, but he's going there because he's inspired to write a new novel, right? But it has to do with this spooky house that's up on a hill. And you're hearing all these rumors about people who lived there, and they were evil and all that kind of stuff, right? But basically what we learn is that there's this guy by the name of Richard Straker, who's running the house. But basically he is the servant for for a vampire, and an ancient vampire, if you will, by the name of Barlow, right? And it's just all these vampire attacks. Basically, it starts off with kids, but then afterwards, like a few adults get bitten as well too, and it's just Ben and a few other people, have to team up to stop these vampires, right? And of course, the head of it all, which will be Barlow, right? So touching on what you said, Summer, about me not having nostalgia for the old film, right? I
Yeah,
appreciated what this remake did, right? What it really does, kind of similar to it, right? It's pretty much kind of reintroduces the story to a new generation. It's not
Mhm.
as all right. So yes, it is. Um, it's specific to the time itself. I believe it's in the mid 70s, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because I saw like this is one marquee for driving, which I guess y'all have to tell me if this was part of the book or not, because that whole drive-in cinema thing was not in the original film, right? Yeah, I noticed a couple of titles like
okay, so
names.
the 2024 version, it
Ah.
follows the novel a lot closer than it
Oh.
Yeah.
does so it's not really basing its inspiration so much of the 79 version as opposed to dealing with the novel itself. So for the
Mhm.
one of the kudos I would give this remake is how close it follows the novel.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's amazing though that it follows it even
Mhm.
more than the '79 film. Okay, okay,
And
yeah.
anybody notice that Stephen
Mhm.
King was one of the executive producers?
Yes,
That
because
doesn't surprise me.
no,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's so funny. Just to touch on that, right? Because yeah,
Yeah.
I find it funny because this was released through Max, right, or through HBO. Yeah, y'all notice that the
Mhm.
intro is very much like those intro sequences to HBO shows. So it has a Last of Us. In
Mm,
particular, it have a Housey Dragon vibe with the blood trail following through maps and pictures.
yes,
Yeah, I was like,
yes.
this is some Housey Dragon kind of
Yeah.
stuff there. Like, wow,
But I loved it.
It's like
I really liked it.
Yeah,
yeah,
me too.
yeah.
I'm a sucker for them. I'm a sucker for those intros.
Yeah.
It's a great way to do what's the word I'm looking for? Not narration, but to tell the story. The word is escaping me right now, but to tell the story without somebody sitting, oh, exposition.
Yeah, exposition.
We get a lot of
Mhm.
exposition in that intro, as opposed, where Marlowe came from, what, the trail of bodies he leaves behind him, all those
Yeah. Yeah.
newspaper clippings and so forth. That tells us, it's a great way to establish what type of town Jerusalem's lot is, as well as
Mhm.
show us, where Barlow is coming from. And yeah, I do like it. And maybe it was like a kind of a shout out to Game of Thrones because Pilu Aspect is in this. I don't know.
Mhm.
Oh yes, right. He's the guy who plays Straker. Yes,
A
that's
striker.
where he's
Yes.
from.
Yeah.
Okay, I knew the face from somewhere, but I just can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, duh, right?
Yeah.
You run Greyjoy, duh, right? Yeah. Um, I do like how visceral it feels, right? It's very tense filled, you know what I mean? Very exciting, I would say, when it comes to these scares,
Mhm.
right? It's one of those shows that I don't know what went on behind the scenes because like apparently the release of this was delayed. I saw in the credits
Yeah.
Oh
2022, right?
yeah.
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 So I don't know if it
Hmm.
was
Yeah.
shelved or if it was with Max or Warner Brothers just basically saying, maybe we should put this out on streaming. Nah, let's put this out theatrically. And then they sort of flip a coin. It's like, okay, let's put it out, digitally, right?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of back and forth with how this was supposed to be released. It was originally meant to be a theatrical release, and maybe they didn't think it had the legs for something like that. I'm guessing too that they may have thought as well that, Salem's Lot, as Stephen King adaptations go, maybe modern, younger crowds would not be too aware of the story and that sort of thing. So I think putting it straight to television it was like a safe bet for them.
Yeah. It doesn't have the pull
Yeah.
like
Makes
say
sense.
it where even if you never saw the 1990 miniseries, at least you know about Pennywise. You know
Mm,
the or
exactly.
maybe if you didn't know who the character's name was, at least you know the face or that image of him in the sewer, right? You know that. Um,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and I do appreciate the pacing of it, though. I like how tight it is, how it hits certain plot points very quickly. Well, not too quickly, but it
Mhm.
just gets in the meat of the story very, very quickly, right?
Yeah. It
Um,
just dives straight in.
yeah, it does though. Couple other things, like
Yeah.
couple other posters, right? I thought that the cinematography and color grading in particular was great though. There's some
Yes.
like shots though. Like I'm
Yeah.
seeing like this is one scene where the brothers, right, the little kid, Danny and his brother, and they're
Like,
walking Glick,
Walking
right,
through the
and they're walking
woods.
through the woods.
yeah.
And just how the
Yes.
sky
I
looked
Yeah.
love
That,
that
though, and
scene.
the silhouette of the
yeah.
trees looked
That's a beautiful scene. Yeah.
yeah, that looked
Yeah.
Yes.
fantastic
Gorgeous.
though. And there's one
It's
involving
almost fairy tale like, huh? Like it
yes.
almost
Mhm.
gives me that whole Red Riding Hood,
Mm-hmm.
Hansel and
Hansel
Gretel
and
thing
Gretel
going
kind
on.
of. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right. Yeah. And I actually do like there's another scene where our heroes, right, including Ben, are right outside of the house, and you're just seeing the basically it's sunset,
Yes.
right? But it's the way how the sky looks though, very it's kind of artificial, but it has a sort of a strange beauty to it. Just the bright colors that you saw there, right?
Hmm.
Very
Mm.
unnatural, but I really dug that, right? Um,
Right.
music choices were solid as well. Just a few needle drops as well too. But they work as well.
Yes.
And yeah, as I said
Gordon
before,
Lightfoot's Sundown.
yes. Which
Yes.
I love
Yes.
that as all right. So forgive me because I'm younger than you guys. That was one of those songs that I
Hmm.
always heard on radio, but I never knew the name of the
Uh-huh.
song until I saw the movie.
Same.
Yeah.
No, honestly, same. But I'm kudos to Alicia for being able to name it like that. But yeah, I think it was a solid opening and closing choice for something like this.
Yes.
But it's a very odd choice too, because when you read about what that song really is about, it seems like an odd choice, but the way that the lyrics are styled, it suits it. Yes, it
Yeah,
suits
yeah.
the narrative.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what this song is about, right?
Uh,
A woman? No, no, no cheating.
It's
I don't know.
actually it's actually about Lightfoot's very turbulent relationship with this backup singer named Cathy Smith, who I saw that she had life in prison for injecting Belushi with a deadly cocktail of
Uh-huh.
drugs. It was cocaine and heroin. I didn't know
oh,
all that
Gotcha.
backstory was inside that.
Wow.
okay.
Okay. Okay.
That I did not
Yeah,
know. Yeah.
yeah.
And for what it's worth though, because I mean, yes, it was meant to be in theaters when you really think about it. Yeah, I actually do like
Mm-hmm.
the violence in it though. I like again just how visceral it is though. You know,
Yeah.
it's just I mean it's nothing original, right? But it's just done in such a way that you will get a jolt with every kill that you see with vampires and whatnot, right? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and have some sweet kills in this movie, especially in the third act. There's a scene involved set in the drive-in that I thought was like I never saw that before. I'm not gonna spoil anything beyond there, but I thought that was a brilliant set piece for this moment, right? That being said,
Hmm.
though, where I felt the show really dropped the ball, unfortunately, was in that scene piecing and the characterization. I felt like,
Yep.
because they had to get to the vampire stuff quickly, they sort of shortchanged certain things. So I felt, and that leads to the characters.
Mm-hmm.
While I was
Yeah.
watching this, like
Yeah.
a part of me felt
Yeah.
like maybe there was like 15 or 20 minutes I was cut out of the original draft and just left
Mm-hmm.
the cut room floor. I felt we could
Yeah.
have got
Absolutely.
more
Yeah.
characterization as far as Straker as the villain. A little bit
Well,
more with
actually, as you guys say that, Matt, I thought that they should have expanded more on Mark Petrie's character.
oh,
I think he was underdeveloped as well too. As you talk about Straker,
mm-hmm.
I think that that Mark Petrie's character is severely underdeveloped.
Yeah, and I actually liked him. No, I
Hmm.
liked him as this. This is a moment with him. He's a teacher at this school, by the way, right? And he's talking
Yes.
to this kid, right? Well, this black kid. Actually, for me, he is like the
No, that is
best.
Mark Petrie.
Oh, the
The
kid.
black
Okay,
child
sorry, sorry, sorry.
is
I was
Mark Petrie,
Thinking of Matt. You're thinking of Matt Booth,
Mike.
the teacher.
No, not
the
not Mike.
teacher.
I was
Yeah,
thinking about
yeah.
the teacher. I was thinking about the teacher. Sorry about that. Yeah, yeah.
Ah,
But
okay, no
yeah,
problem.
like I felt we could have gotten more out of Mark's character as well, right? Because we went from I could stand up against bullies to I'm gonna kill vampires, and
Yeah.
slight spoiler. Again, this is me thinking that some stuff was cut out, right? So nearing the end
Mm-hmm.
of like the third act, that's when we finally see Mark's parents, and they actually become victims though. Some they're like, wait now, but why are we bringing in those characters now, right? And I see this because even before we even see his parents, he's all like he has his mind made up. It's like, all right, yep, vampires here. I have to kill them. I'm 11 and three quarters, as he said. But yep, I'm gonna kill vampires, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna have a stiff back and just puff my chest and just kill vampires. Like out of the blue, though, like you would think, right, seeing the parents and what happened to them, that the trigger that got him to be the sort of
Yeah.
vengeful character, if you will, is seeing his parents get bitten, right? But no, it
Well,
happens
you see, that's
right
why the
before.
miniseries does that part better. You don't find so?
It
I
does.
agree. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
it
yeah.
does.
Yeah.
So in the miniseries, we get, and this is this is what happens when you try to adapt a Stephen King book that should be a television series, a
Into a movie.
miniseries at least, into a movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the original does a much better job of giving us his character arc. Whereas
Yeah.
here, they try again. I give them kudos for making him the right age. In the book, he's 12 years old. Even
Mm-hmm.
though he's a little taller than most kids, but he's a skinny, smart kid, and he's very brave from the very beginning,
Yeah.
like we saw with the bullies. But
Right.
yeah, you're right, Matt, in the sense that we don't spend any, because it's a movie, because they're condensing things down so much. The character
Mm-hmm.
development that is in that original series that makes me care about these people, it doesn't really exist here. So when they die, with the exception of a few people like the teacher, I really didn't feel that as much as I did in the original. And with his
Yeah.
parents, it's that sort of thing too. We never get a sense of a closeness in the relationship, and then they die.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
where that scene is the same, but it's so rushed that it has no impact
It
on
doesn't
you.
have the impact. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. And lastly, I
Mhm.
really felt it with the characters of Ben and Susan, who are the couple in the film, right? Not enough time with the two
Mhm.
of them together. And look, I'm not
Mhm.
gonna knock the actor Louis Pullman. I know I saw his face somewhere before, but I just can't remember right
Is
now.
he related to Bill Pullman?
Yeah,
Is he
that's
That
his
is
like
a
a
son.
son?
that's his son.
It's his
That's
That's
his
his
son.
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 Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's his son.
okay,
Yeah. Um,
right.
I wanted, this is the best way I could say it. I wanted to feel the chemistry between Ben and Susan,
Mhm.
but I didn't feel it at all. And I felt like the miniseries did that so well. Like I actually loved the moment where they met
Yeah.
for the first time at the lake, and she was reading
Yeah.
Ben's novel. How they
Yeah.
change it now with where they meet, so to speak, in the library. That was cool. That was cool, right? Again, trying to
Mhm.
move the story quickly, so he's doing research on the house while she sees it for the first time, right? But I felt there
Yeah.
wasn't enough time with the two of them together. And then
Mhm.
even worse now, when he incorporates Susan's mom, so all of a sudden, slight spoiler, she turned heel now, and she want basically a servant of Barlow, like out of the blue now. Like I felt they didn't really expand
Yeah.
on that even more, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny because that actress usually plays those sorts of characters. So
Okay.
I kind of saw it coming just because it was her.
Oh, really?
Maybe they
Okay.
picked somebody else, but yeah, Deborah Christopherson usually plays those types of characters.
All right.
So
I see. I
I was
see. I
like,
see.
it didn't surprise me.
Yeah. So yeah, just to wrap things up, I still like the film though, and I understand why it was made this way. It's really clearly designed to cater to a brand new audience. So people like me who never bothered to watch the original, or people who just never heard of it, right? Or didn't even know that a remake in 2004 existed, right? But I felt because it has to
Mhm.
move at a certain pace now, certain things were left out, and in particular the characterization. And then as much as I could praise the pacing of it though, I felt like it was a lot of um it was just like a lot of steps being taken to get to the horror stuff. It was just okay, we need to get to the horror stuff quickly, so let's just run through the scene very quickly
Hmm.
and the X like XYZ, right? It didn't allow the story itself to breathe. It didn't allow the tension and the dread of the situation to build. It was just okay, set piece, take a little minute break, then set piece, and it just keeps going, going, going. But I will say though, I still enjoyed it as just seeing it, even though I watched it in my house. It still had that sort of popcorn
Mhm.
entertainment vibe to it though, and I will say just I mean, at the end of the day, despite the flaws I mentioned, it's still a very entertaining horror film, right? It's just one that you watch and you just enjoy watching the vampire thrills and the visceral action and stuff like that, right? But as an adaptation, I felt we could have gotten a little bit more though. Like I felt like we could have gotten we could have gotten more of a of an indication of why this story has been is so beloved. You know what I mean? Instead of just treating it as, oh, let's just make another derivative vampire movie and leave it at that, right? So I'll
Yeah.
leave my final thoughts and rating at the very end. But yeah, Alicia, your thoughts on Salem Slot.
As a person that read the novel and also saw the 1979 miniseries several times, I would still say that it is one of the better modernized um, screen adaptations of Stephen King's works because I didn't really like the modern It movies. Sorry, Matt, I didn't like any of them. One,
Wow.
neither, yeah, neither chapter one or chapter two. No, I didn't like them. I watched it in that moment, and after that, I never watched them again. Um, I'm one of those that prefer the actual miniseries of it. Strange enough, I know
Okay.
some people say that it doesn't hold up well today, but I think it does hold up. Um, but in so that's why in comparing what we've gotten in terms of modern readaptations of Stephen King's works and so on, yes, I get that it has been condensed a lot and chopped up a lot. Certain things have been changed, like origin stories and what they would focus on and so on. But those are things that I learned to get past because you're not gonna get everything how you want it as a fan, right? But I enjoyed the aesthetics of the movie itself. Apart from the lack of character development in terms of the key characters, I liked the violence, the cinematography, like Matt said, the color palette, everything. Um, so like I said, it is the best modern day screen adaptation. It's kind of like if you took a dated story and you try to give it a facelift so that you could attract the audiences of now. Because I don't know how many people actually know about Stephen King's legacy and about his books, and how many people read them today. I don't know how that is out in the market. Maybe someone might know, because he also has a son that writes novels that are kind of like similar to him in terms of spooky horror gothic stuff. So maybe the people might know more his son than him. We don't know. So yeah, I'll give my score later on as well too. But I liked it.
Okay, okay. And lastly,
Yeah.
Summer, your thoughts on Salem Slut.
Um, I will say, for me, I think it starts very strong. The first half of this is really, really well thought out. I did appreciate that they tried to stick closer to the novel. For a lot of the ideas and the story beats that we have. I mean, the that whole glowing eyes, the look of the vampires. I feel like that is so iconic. I'm glad that they stuck with it, and I think the effect looks really really good here. Um, and I think the actors are also they're giving it their all in terms of what they have to work with. The latter half of the movie is where I think it suffers. With the exception of, I do love the drive-in action sequence, that whole aspect of it there, but pulling it away from the Barlow house. That house itself is like the Amityville house. It's like the house in Psycho. The house itself is also a character. The house itself is also meant to be almost as terrifying as Barlow himself, because there's all these stories about the Marston house. That again, because it's a movie, they left out a lot of the background there. But the house itself, we get some really cool shots here and there, but we never really get a sense of how terrifying that house is. And because they pull a lot of the scenes that take place in that house out of the house, I feel like that might have been a bit of a misstep. And the last half of the movie, things do get very derivative of every other vampire movie you've seen recently, like the one with the kids and with the vampires in the Bronx and that sort of thing. It does start to feel like these vampires, they no longer start to feel like people, for want of a better term. The original miniseries does do a good job of making you feel, it's really, you feel sympathy for what these people are becoming. And I do like that. For me, the original never kind of loses sight of how painful it is to see people you love become these mindless monsters. So yeah, the first half of this movie, I think it's really engaging. I think overall the movie looks great. I didn't have an issue with the pacing again because it is a movie, and I understand, they sacrifice some stuff to get through to get to that ending, that runtime ending. I also prefer the original miniseries ending. I do like
Mhm.
that more of an open-ended ending, but I guess it's not necessary, because we don't want another return of Salem Slot. It's not necessary to
Heck
return.
no.
But yeah, if I have to compare the two, there's a lot here that's really good. Like the original has a lot of things that work and has some things that don't. I feel that the same thing kind of happens here. I will keep my score again for the end. But I think they made the right decision in not releasing it in theaters. It really,
Mhm.
I wish they would have taken advantage of the fact that it's in television and stretched it out a bit more, even if it was maybe to go for a 2-hour movie, so that we could have gotten more character development. It would have been nice to
Mhm.
see more of Jerusalem's lot and understand why what was happening to them was so tragic. It feeds into Stephen King and his whole thing with small, these small towns always having these dark underbellies and all and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy it. And I could see myself revisiting this the same way I revisit the original. So, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right, all right. So for me, rating wise, I'm gonna give this a light to decent 3 out of 5. It's aight for what it is. Um, as an introductory, film to the world of Jerusalem's lot. It's solid enough. It's entertaining enough. You'll have fun watching it. And I would say if you're just looking for something new to watch for the Halloween season this year, yeah, check it out. Don't let this slip past the reader. But at the same time, if you're a diehard fan of the original miniseries and the novel which it's based on, yeah, I could see you having, or I should say, not enjoying it as much as you want to, right? It is very modern in the way how they approached it, the storytelling, the visuals, all that kind of stuff. It's very modern, very contemporary in a sense, even though it's a period piece. I just felt like they just had to, like, they just basically sort of watered down the story a bit and cut down on the characterization just to get to those vampire thrills, right? But we still could have gotten those, and some more a sense of drama, though, a sense of emotional weight in terms of what's going on. But it's just okay. We need to get to this set piece and that set piece and that set piece. So that really, what was a letdown for me, right? But for what it is, I still enjoy it for what it is. But at the end of the day, I do see myself rewatching the 79 film, in case you were wondering. Yeah, I actually do see myself rewatching it in due time. And maybe over the years, I'll grow to love it as well. But I don't want to say that, I don't want to forget about this film, right? I don't want to think that, oh, this kind of came and went and nobody cared about it. I think that, the people behind the scenes really made a solid effort to, or I should say attempt to breathe new life into this beloved story. And I can't be mad at them for that. So yeah, some of your final thoughts are written.
Well, for me, I would give this like a 6 out of 10, where the original for me is more like a 7.5. I really, really think that it was a missed opportunity. They should have done a two-parter on this and take that time, because it's a slow burn. Most of King's novels, if you're a King fan, and at least I would say he's just as popular now. I really would.
You think
But
so?
most
Yeah.
of King, yeah, absolutely. That's why so much of his work is still being adapted. I mean, if you look at it in recent years, more of his work has been adapted in recent years than in the past years when we were growing up. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
I think he's still very much part of the zeitgeist. But yeah, I do feel there was a missed opportunity here. They if they were going to put it on television anyway, they should have gone back, shoot a
Extended
few
time.
extra
Yeah.
scenes, and just
Mm-hmm.
give us that slow burn, develop the relationship between Susan and Ben, so
Mm-hmm.
that love story, when what happens to her happens, you feel it. There's that lack of feeling for a lot of the people that are being destroyed in this town, that the original miniseries does so much better. But for what it is, for as you guys say, it's Halloween season. Maybe you're looking for something new to watch. Maybe you're looking for a new vampire flick to watch. And I would say, sure, it's sanitized. It's too short for the story that it's based on, but it looks good. The actors give it their all. It has solid atmosphere. That, like I said, that first half for me is pretty much, if the rest of the movie was like the first half, that build up that they were giving us, I feel like this would have been more of a winner. Um, but for what it is, it's fine. It's just fine.
Okay, okay. And lastly, Alicia, your final thoughts on written.
Well, like you guys said, um, it's a film that I will find myself going back to, unlike the other Stephen King adaptation, like It, which I never want to see again. Because I quite enjoy it, despite it being I would just consider it like a very condensed version of the miniseries and of the book, but it was enjoyable. The violence, everything for me, it was just like I said before, given the Stephen King novel a modern facelift. for want of a better word. So I'll give it a 3.25 out of 5.